The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is a very large organization. With a budget request of more than $220 billion and 366,000 employees, VA is the size of a Fortune 7 or 8 company. VA provides healthcare services and benefits to 9 million veterans and their families. This includes things like education benefits, home loans, and burial benefits. And in 2015, this was veterans' digital experience with VA. So if you wanted to compare schools to use your GI Bill, you had to download raw data on a spreadsheet from va.gov. If you wanted to find a VA facility, you had to use this outdated map to bring up free text of locations for VA facilities. And if you were a blind veteran or sight impaired, you couldn't even use this tool. If you were a veteran trying to apply for health care, 70% of users got an error message if you weren't using a specific browser and version of Adobe. If you did get through, you had to fill out a tabbed, fillable PDF that took 2 to 3 hours. The primary way veterans interact with VA digitally is through va.gov. In 2015, there were 250,000 mostly static pages of content, not written in plain language. 46% of those pages were mobile responsive, and just 10% were transactional. So if you actually did get to a page where you could do something, some of the highest demand veteran features had availability of 76% or less. On the back end, the release process at VA was 90 days or more, generally, and there were multiple logons with varying levels of security to protect veteran data. So today, we think there's a big improvement in veteran experience interacting with VA. We still have a long way to go. But you can see va.gov is a modern interface. It's hosted in the cloud with much better technical performance. It's transaction-based, so veterans can come and do something. They can apply for something, they can check their status, they can schedule something. You can see on the right, we've launched more than 40 products over the past 4 years. So in government, that's a lot. This top product here is the VA Facility Locator. So that's that old map. So now you have a modern online map, not only with directions to VA facilities, but veterans can also see what services are offered at different VA medical centers, which is pretty cool. And this is our GI Bill comparison tool. So I'll talk about this a little later. We were also able to reduce, on the back end, release cycles to anywhere. It was more than 90 days. Now it's between 1 and 30 days. So some teams at VA are shipping code every day. And we also launched a login that meets the highest level of NIST security requirements. So it's a level of assurance 3, which is great to protect VA data. Oh, and the nice thing is on the facility locator, blind and sight impaired veterans can use this tool. So how did we do this in 4 years? So today I'm going to tell you a story about how small empowered teams worked at VA shipping one product at a time, one great product at a time, and we were able to shift the mindset of a huge organization from a traditional project management mindset to a user-focused product management mindset. So my name is Kelly O'Connor, and I worked at the VA Digital Service team for 4 years. My term just expired this past August, so currently I'm a principal at Boston Consulting Group. And I also work at Georgetown and teach a class in their product management certification program. Here's a little bit about my professional background and some things I care about. So I'm very passionate about veteran issues. My dad's a Vietnam combat veteran, 82nd Airborne. I try to be a patient advocate in the opioid crisis. And I'm very excited to spread the word and help large organizations shift from a project management focus to a product management focus, especially in government. So to start my story, it's important to know what the heck the digital service is. So who here has heard of the US Digital Service? Okay, awesome. Usually no one's heard of us. So the digital service is a tech startup out of the White House. So we're about 150 people. We started under President Obama in 2014, and we are engineers, designers, and product people from innovative startups, from civic tech organizations like Code for America, from awesome companies like Microsoft and Google and Apple, and we come and work 2-year tours of duty on complex problems. That's me in the middle. And we are still going strong in this administration. This is the best professional experience I've had in my career. So if you are interested in working on an issue you care about, the government has every issue possible. Come and work at the digital service and have an immediate impact. So today I want to talk about 6 plays that we ran at VA. I'm also going to tell you about tons of mistakes we made, so hopefully you can avoid those in your organizations. The one caveat is, as I go through the success we've had at VA, please keep in mind that our digital service team flexed from about 25 to 30 people at any point over the past 4 years. So everything we did in partnership with VA career service colleagues and awesome partners like GitHub and many others. So this is not meant to be a story about how great the digital service is. It's how we helped VA shift from a project perspective to a product perspective. So the first play is think big, but ship super small and fast. So this is actually a screenshot from our digital service strategy in 2014. So Marina Martin and 3 other digital service people, we literally worked out of a large closet at VA headquarters on Vermont Avenue, but we developed this document called the 21st Century VA, and it talked about how to transform this huge organization to improve veteran experience, benefits delivery, and back-end operations when it comes to digital. We took this document to every meeting we went to, every elevator ride, we handed it out, and one day Sloan Gibson, the Deputy Secretary of VA, read the document. He came to Marina and he said, "I want that VA." And I tell that story because it's a pivotal tipping point when our small team became a small empowered team, and that made all the difference. So once we had some power, which was pretty fun because you can do stuff, it only takes a few change agents to start building momentum. So these are just a few people who really helped us digitally transform VA. We've got Drew here today, who leads our awesome API program. He's also our chief foodie at VA. But I want to talk about Kurt Coy. So Kurt's over in the corner, and he was actually the business sponsor of that GI Bill spreadsheet. And he knew in 2015, this is a horrible experience for veteran students. I want to fix this. So he goes out to the private sector, he gets proposals in, and the most competitive proposal he receives is for a digital product for $14 million, and it would take a year to launch. So what Kurt decided to do is go to Marina and her team of 2 engineers and a designer, and he has testified to this to Congress. He has told Congress, Marina and her team built something that made student veteran experience better in 1 weekend over 2 bottles of wine. So it took us longer than that, so it was probably 2 or 3 sprints, but it was nowhere near $14 million in a year. So now we have a small empowered team. We have some power and authority. We have some champions. We've identified some problems we know we want to solve. But I don't know if people out there who work in large organizations, if this resonates with you, but we had a decision to make. Do we try to fix the big existing thing and chip away at that? Or do we just stand up a brand new small thing on the side that lets us work the way we want to work? And there are pros and cons to both of those decisions. I think we made the right decision. We decided to stand up a modern tech stack in the cloud so we could work the way we wanted to work. But think about that veteran experience, right? We're sending veterans to a brand new website called vets.gov. It doesn't look like a government website, right? It looks really weird. It said beta all over it. So there was definitely a downside as well, but in the end, you can see the evolution. We launched the minimum viable product of vets.gov on Veterans Day in 2015. I think we had 2 or 3 transactional features. since that time, we've launched about 45 modern digital products. In 2016, we had a pretty big milestone where we launched a new logon that was more secure. That was really, really hard in terms of change management. And then you can see the evolution. And what was exciting this past Veterans Day is we folded in the big thing to our small thing on the side. So we kind of swallowed va.gov. And you can see the interface here. It's a much more modern, better technical performing site for veterans. So it's a fun story to tell. These are just 2 of the 40 products we've launched. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the presentation. But that was the first play. So we've got a vision, we've got some champions, and we've got like a way we can deliver. We've got a modern tech platform where we can start shipping stuff. So the very first thing we had to do at VA, and I don't think this is unique to VA, I think many government agencies conflate these 2 disciplines. So product management is not the same. Everybody in this room probably knows this, but product management is a completely different discipline from project management. So this is funny because if you think of some of the most innovative, ubiquitous technology we use today, it came out of government. But if you try to get a job on USA Jobs as a product manager, there are no job postings. So I searched this about a month ago, you get lifeguard. But there are thousands of project and program managers, right? So this is a big root cause problem. Government needs engineers, designers, and product people working in-house as feds to partner with vendors. So one of the ways we helped evangelize this idea at VA was to educate our colleagues. Both of these things are important. We have to report to Congress. We have to manage cost and schedule. But you have to be doing both of these. So project management is all about delivering to your plan, right? Delivering on time, on budget, watch out for scope creep. Product management is all about users. You've solved the right problem and you've delivered something that provides value. And this really resonated with VA leadership. Like, they got it. Like, there's very little value in delivering something on time and on budget if it's the wrong thing. So we started to go out and talk to users. Over the past 4 years, we've talked to more than 4,500 individual veterans. So this is, in the top corner, this is Marvin. This is a Seattle homeless shelter. We did tons of card sorting with veterans. In the bottom corner, this is a sight-impaired veteran, did tons of work with Blind Veterans of America. And those of you at large organizations, you know when you go out and start talking to users, you start hearing about a lot of problems. And you can't fix everything. So do what Marty Kagan says. Find out what makes your users the most miserable and start there. And that's what we tried to do. So we had a hypothesis that applying for health care is making many, many veterans very, very miserable. Just 10% of healthcare applications were coming in online at VA. So in 2015, to give you some context, VA received 582,000 applications for healthcare. Just 10% came in online. What that meant for users is they've got to call a call center and wait on hold for hours. They've got to mail in hard copy forms, or they've got to drive to a VA to do this. So what we did was we launched a very basic online form that let veterans apply for healthcare, and within 9 months, that number went from 10% to 50%. So we proved that there was this pent-up demand. My dad's 70 years old. He wants to do stuff on his phone. He wants self-service. So the healthcare product became one of our foundational stories that we would tell. So this is one of my favorite plays because I'm not technical at all. I'm an English major. So I think good business is about telling good stories. So one of the things I noticed when I came to VA, I was a contractor, and it was very fun to come to VA and be a Fed with some power. But a lot of our vendor partners would have these really fancy scoreboards and tons of KPIs and metrics. And you have to remember there's an opportunity cost to collecting that data. You don't need dozens and dozens of metrics. Just pick a few that will help you prove a hypothesis or tell your story. So with the healthcare product, we picked one metric. We said we want to increase the percentage of veterans who can apply for healthcare online. These are some of the other metrics we've collected over the past 4 years across our portfolio. This is an article that was just featured this past Veterans Day. I do want to call out, we've got 5,000 people at VA using GitHub, so that's pretty awesome. I'm not exactly sure what they're all doing, but it's pretty cool. So one of the things about telling stories, with the digital service, we have some guiding principles, and you'd be surprised how many times this gets articulated as we work. Find the truth and tell the truth. So you have to tell true stories. Be transparent, tell data-driven stories, but you also have to tell human stories and show versus tell. So I want to tell the story of Dominic, who is one veteran that we worked with in early 2016. So Dominic was a Navy veteran. He wrote a letter to President Obama. He'd been in and out of homelessness. He was eligible for VA healthcare, but he was not able to apply for it successfully. So our team read the letter and we reached out to him, and he agreed to do a user research session with us. So I'm going to show that 2 short videos. They're 2 minutes each. And we are in the parking lot. So Dominic was working, but he had to meet us on his lunch break. And you can see how it went.
No, I've been to va.gov a few times.
Okay.
I know I've been on this website before. I don't remember any of my login information though for my health eVet.
Okay.
So
what did you use
I've
that
been
website
on that.
for?
When I signed in for something on here, it directed me to that, and I just remember it popping up and there being a link for it. I know I've done this with finding the VA form for everything, which is sometimes it's fairly easy and sometimes it's not. I know I filled out this 1010 easy so many times, it's like ridiculous.
And is this what you expected to happen when you clicked on that?
No, I actually expected it to open the website.
Okay. So why don't you go ahead and click on that again? And let's go ahead and click Advanced. And let's click Proceed.
Now this is the last time I saw this. This is how it started up, where it allowed me to be able to start now with trying to enroll.
Okay.
And again, like I said, I got about halfway through it, and then all of a sudden it was like, why do I not understand this? What is the terminology that they're trying to use for this? Because this doesn't make any sense. And that's when I ended up calling the 800 number to get someone to walk with me through it, because I was like, look, I'm having an issue. I don't understand what you guys are asking for. And I've seen this come up too a few times, where it's like you need an updated PDF read. I'm like, why? Okay.
What are your impressions of this page? What do you think it means?
This is annoying that you can't use whatever current PDF browser that you have. Like, if you got Adobe, the current form of Adobe, you can't open this. This is the problem. This is a huge problem, because some people don't have the finances to upgrade their Adobe, or to even upgrade to a computer that carries the current flash drive or PDF reader on it.
And how many times have you seen this before?
I can tell you last year alone, I've probably seen this about maybe a dozen times.
And what did you do next?
I think the last 5 times I just went to the library.
Went to the library?
Yep.
Did it work there?
Twice.
Twice
I had to work there. One of those was the same day that I called the VA, and the woman told me, after she had me on hold, that they couldn't help me.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is the same user research session. So we also tested a very early prototype we had.
So we're going to shift gears just a little bit. So now I want you to take a look at this website and just talk to me about your first impressions. What do you notice first?
This is definitely easier to read, a larger font.
Okay.
It's very, very much straightforward, which is great, because the other website is like takes you around the corner and over the meadow and tries to lead you in a back door that's blocked with spikes and IEDs. Like, this is super straightforward. Click to enter your name and general information. The other site is not like that. It's like looking at, like, say if they took my 214 and scanned it into the computer. It's what looking at the other site looks like.
Yeah. Okay. So if you, let's say you're trying to apply for healthcare again, can you show me how you would do that using this website?
Well, I mean,
Yep.
this
Yeah,
looks
I just want you
extremely.
to go through and you can, you know, if you don't want to enter in all of your real information, you can use some fake information like your social security number. You just make up a number. But,
Right.
But I do want you to actually go through the whole form because I want to see how it works for you.
Like, this is super easy. I have not had this level of ease with a website for the government at all. Like, this is much easier. This is extremely easy. I'd use this over using anything the VA offers. This is awesome.
Okay. So that was just one user research session we did of about 4,500. And what was really helpful with this, the Dominic video, we call it, is we had all the data to make the case that the form we've got up there now is not working. But when we showed this to Secretary McDonald and Sloan Gibson, and Sloan just put his head on his desk and he's like, we have to fix this. So don't underestimate the power of qualitative data. This was also really helpful in turning the old thing off. So you wouldn't believe how difficult it is to turn something off that doesn't work. So, okay, so this is a fun play. This is where I talk about some of the mistakes we made. So the first thing we learned very quickly, this was a painful lesson, was that old back-end systems and manual workarounds aren't going to scale when you're exponentially increasing usage. So don't forget, we are quietly standing up these new products on a site we're not marketing. It says beta all over it. And so on one of our first products we launched that had about 62 transactions a day, within the first week, it went to 500. So that was a problem. We screwed up on that. But what we did was, it was really interesting because we got a lot of pressure, like take the new thing down. We just go back to the old thing with 60 a day, that was fine. And what Marina said was, no, we're going to keep it up. That's a forcing function. The digital service is going to work with you. We're going to fix it. So this is a lesson you only have to learn once, but back-end systems, old back-end systems are a big constraint in government. When we were launching products, we did as much as we could to optimize, but sometimes you're just stuck with those old back-end systems. Forms are a really big part of user experience in government. So you can see the first form, VA has like 535 forms veterans can use to access benefits. Our first form took us 5 months to develop. We got faster, and today it takes the digital service 5 days to launch an online form. So here's some topics of some of the biggest mistakes we've made. The first thing I'll talk about is tools. So in government, I think having modern, productive tools is one of the biggest constraints that we face. So once you get through the procurement and the security hurdles, what we learned is you can't just stand up some relatively easy tools like Slack. So you have to anticipate training, and you also have to be aware of a network effect. So you have to have a core of people using these tools so new users can kind of see, oh, I don't use this the way I use email. So Drew is one of our first champions in trying to get his team to use Slack, and it was a ghost town. So Drew and I would be slacking each other messages all day. And so if the tool becomes just one more thing to check, that's a problem. So don't underestimate how much training you need and that network effect for these new tools. The second big mistake the digital service made was around handoffs. So we're a tiny team, we're 25 to 30 people, so it was always the plan that we would launch minimum viable products and then hand them off to our VA IT counterparts. So there's 8,000 people in VA OINT, supported by another 8,000 contractors. We did a horrible job in those early days of anticipating the rigor of a handoff, right? So that resulted in this kind of launch and abandon experience for some users our first year. So now we have very rigorous kind of checklists and handoff activities, and we also have integrated teams where we bring our teammates along throughout the development of the MVP. Building trust and discovery I'll talk about together. So our digital service team knows a lot about technology and design and product. What we don't know about is VA healthcare and benefits delivery, and we weren't a very humble group in the beginning. So we got better at this, but make sure that you have integrated teams, that you're bringing in experts, and that you recognize there's a lot of things you don't know. And the last thing I'll talk about is the release process. So during our first 2 years, we took a very waiver-based and exception-based approach, which was great for us. So we could use cool tools. We didn't have to do all those documents in the SDLC for compliance, but that didn't really help the enterprise. So really taking a more enterprise approach and kind of fixing those blockers for our counterparts was really important, whether that's updating policies or our next play is debunking some myths. So this was also something fun that we did, especially when you have leadership support. So these are real things that we heard when we started working at VA. So if any of you work in large organizations, I'm sure there are a lot of misinformation. You can't use GitHub, it's illegal. You can't go to the cloud because you can't put it in an evidence bag. Like, none of these things are true. So getting the word out and making sure that people have the right information is really important. One of the biggest blockers on large-scale change initiatives is this mentality of like, we've always done it this way, we've always done it this way. So again, shifting from, I have my PMP, this is how I've always worked, to, no, we're going to do it differently, is really important. So ask why, but disrupt with purpose. Don't just disrupt to disrupt. So when we started asking questions like, why do we need all these documents and meetings? Why are we spending thousands of dollars to get people PMP certified? It is a useless credential with delivering a great digital product. And why are we blaming security for everything? So ask that second question, like, what specific security requirement is preventing us from working the way we need to work? And this is the last play I'll talk about. So I talked a little bit about being humble. Have some humility and don't go it alone. So as 30 people in a 366,000 person agency, you have to work with partners. The digital service is certainly not the only group at VA doing really cool and innovative stuff. So you have to find these pockets of innovation, partner with them, help them with blockers, and celebrate their success. So this is one of my favorite things that we did at VA that I hope will go on for a long time. So I've talked a lot about top-down leadership and the support we had, but that's not enough if you want to change a huge organization. You've got to have bottom-up support. So we started a product management and human-centered design training program. It's old school. It's an in-person program. We run it out of headquarters. We can do 50 people in a class. And the first day is a classroom, day in the classroom. So we're going to cycle all of our VA IT people through it, in addition to our business sponsors, our procurement people, and our security people. So during the first day, you sit in class and you learn what the heck is product management. You learn about human-centered design and agile and minimum viable products. And then we also have leadership. So we have people like Drew and our CIO and our deputy come in and actually give people permission to work this way. That's really important. I call it like the Merv Griffin show, which no one on my team gets that reference. But so this picture on the right is the day in the classroom. And then these other two pictures, the second day is really the secret sauce of the training. So that's when we actually go out to the field and talk to veterans. So this is at the VA Medical Center in DC, and we break out into small teams. So we'll have small teams at, prosthetics and pharmacy and long-term care. You can see this picture in the middle is in the lobby with what I think is a pretty scary, dangerous popcorn machine. But it's basically just our team talking to veterans and building empathy. We're not collecting requirements. It's just kind of an empathy building and mindset shift activity. So this is a great program. We do this every month. In addition to in-house trainings you can do, make sure to leverage external partners. So this is our awesome GitHub VA team. They have trained 5,000 people so far at VA. They also teach a module in that product management training, which is fantastic, in addition to teaching a module at the Georgetown program, which is really cool. So invest in the right training for your team. I'm biased because I teach in the Georgetown program, but send your folks to Marty Kagan's class, or Harvard has a class, but make sure you're getting them the right training and not the traditional, deliver on time and on budget. Be humble. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, as a product person, it's easy to have empathy for users, right? That's kind of built into the fabric of product management. But have empathy for your colleagues, because it's a scary thing trying to use these new tools. And I discovered that when I started at the digital service at VA, and I'd come from some pretty good companies like Gartner and Deloitte. We did not work the way engineers and designers from Microsoft and Google and Code for America work at all. So I came to VA equipped with my integrated project plan and earned value management. I'm like, why is no one answering my email, and what the heck's a GitHub? So I think that was good for me because it helped me to develop some empathy for my VA colleagues. Fear is a big root cause of resistance of change. And then the last thing in this play is just be an optimist. It's contagious, and it's going to be a force multiplier. So hopefully some of those plays and lessons learned help you go back to if you work in a large organization, and affect some change. So think big, but ship small and fast. Focus on delivery. Tell true stories that matter. Get smarter as you work. Sometimes that means failing in the open. Be a myth buster, and have some humility. Thank you.